Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Resco Field Service 2.0 online training. My name is Ivan Stanyo. I'm the Chief Evangelist and the COO at Resco. I've been with the company for a little over 11 years, and I can say I've seen a lot of things happening over that time, both on the side of mobile technology, the advancements of mobility, mobile devices, mobile technology solutions, but also a lot on the other side, on the side of the backend systems. So, what are we doing today? As you probably know, it's not an easy task to do an in-person training, even though we, at the very beginning of this year, we plan to host a number of in-person training sessions, both in the United States of America as well as in Europe, in our headquarters and other cities in Europe as well. Unfortunately, we had to cancel all of those, and we'll see if we'll get a chance to reschedule them for maybe later this year. However, we decided that being a software company, we should embrace the software and technologies that allow us to collaborate and connect together. So we decided to create an online version of our training. It will be slightly different to the traditional in-person one, of course, because it's a little bit harder to get that first-hand interaction. But we hope that you'll get some good value and good insights and learn something new about how Resco can be used. So what I prepared for today is pretty much outlined here. So I'll talk a little bit about Resco Field Service 2.0. I'll explain the framework and technology behind the Field Service 2.0 concept. Then we'll go through the Woodford. If you're wondering what Woodford is, yes, it's a well-known whiskey from Kentucky, but it's also the name of our configuration tools. We'll go through a couple of exercises today, and then the rest of the session I'll cover with topics around wearable technologies, wearable devices, and to top it off, I prepared something that I call the Ultimate Field Service 2.0 demo, which is the combination of many different approaches and solutions from Resco put into one cohesive and streamlining experience on mobile devices such as iPhones, iPads, and a smartwatch. So that's the plan for today. Thanks again for joining me. If it's in Europe in the evening, if it's in the United States, it's either your morning or hopefully you're having lunch if you're on the East Coast. So I probably couldn't skip this news that just came out end of last week. I'm sure many of you have caught the news that Microsoft has released their new field service mobile client called Field Service Mobile 2020. What does that mean? It spurs a lot of discussions and conversations online and in many forums and LinkedIn including. So I think it's kind of important to share what it means, especially right now and maybe from a little longer term point of view. So what's important, this new Field Service Mobile 2020 application is now available on Apple App Store and Google Play Market. It's entirely built on top of Microsoft Power Platform. However, the official recommendation from Microsoft, as written in the documentation, is to use the current application, which is the Resco-based, for another more than 1 year, so until June 2021. And then it's going to be fully supported until June 2022. So that effectively is putting us on more than 2 years from now, actually 25 months, throughout which the application is going to be fully supported, and more than a year of time when all new customers should be using the current application based on Resco technology. I feel kind of obligated to mention that there's a commitment from Microsoft to bring the Power Platform based application on par with Resco's technology. which makes sense. I would also like to make perfectly clear that we at Resco don't plan to sit around and just wait until it happens. What we learned over the 20 years as a business is that the mobile technologies evolve at tremendous speed and pace, and we're definitely going to ramp up the capabilities of our technology to make sure that we can serve all our clients and grow with them as their businesses grow as well. So that one's done. And now, few examples of partners who, despite this news, understand that in order to bring flawless and very powerful mobile experiences, decided to invest into a partnership with Resco. The first one is official now. Resco has signed a global partnership with Hitachi's headquarters in Japan. And we're building some really cool stories together as I speak. So it's a really, really great and important partnership for Resco, especially to cover the Asia and the whole APEC and Australia regions as well. So we're really, really proud of that. And we're also signing a contract with Avanade. It's also a global contract that's going to allow the whole Avanade team all around the globe to bring some of the best experiences when it comes to mobility. So a great example that of partners who are really investing into Resco and building their mobile practices around Resco technology. Good. So before I start, a few things. You're all in the listen-only mode, but I would love to encourage you to take the opportunity to write your questions in the GoToWebinar application. I will occasionally or regularly maybe check if there are any questions, and there's even dedicated time for the end of the session to go through as many questions as possible. And then one more thing, I prepared these slides in a PDF version, so you should be able to download them from the handout section. And you will also find there more resources. So I put together some important links where you can find important content, guides, access to Wiki, Resco Wiki, access to Roadmap, access to our Resco Academy, the online learning platform, etc., all available right there. So, what we actually mean by field service 2.0. It's a new concept at Resco. We were usually talking about mobility and mobile applications, mobile sales, mobile field service, etc. But we believe that we got to a point where talking about it just as a mobile app or simple mobile solution is not enough. And we're coming out with a concept called Field Service 2.0. So on one side, you can think of it as a combination of everything that we have learned as a company about mobility. I'm sure some of you know that when Resco started, it was all about creating simple applications for devices such as Palm Pilots, Pocket PCs, maybe first version of Windows Mobile, some of the ruggedized devices from Motorola, etc. So it really started a long time ago and allowed us to understand and learn a lot of things about mobility. It's also a combination of a lot of knowledge and experience that we're getting from working with our partners and also customers all around the world. So Resco has now more than 2,500 customers that we work with, and a lot of our big portion of our roadmap and actually the whole solution is driven by our customers and their requests, and also partners, things that they want to see in the solution and have available for their customers. And thirdly, it's also a lot of vision. So we're monitoring the mobile market, we're checking on the latest trends. We work very closely with Gartner, so we have access to their brains in a form of live interactions with Gartner analysts, but also in a form of their reports, their analysis, etc., that we use to understand where the market's going to be and how it's going to look like in, let's say, 3, 4, 5, or maybe even 10 years from now. So that's what we understand under the term Field Service 2.0. When we look at it from the technology perspective, it's a little bit easier story. So what Field Service 2.0 in terms of Resco solutions is, it's pretty much a combination of our solutions. At the bottom, the base or the foundation of Field Service is the Resco framework. So it's all the mobile applications that can come in different flavor, different fashion, different clothes, different content, etc. That work on many different mobile devices and touch points, and I'll get to that as well throughout the presentation. And then it's the already mentioned Woodford tool, really the muscle and the heart behind our technology that allows to completely configure the outcome of Resco technology, so the actual mobile applications. And because I mentioned that we don't understand Resco as just a simple mobile application anymore, this is exactly what I mean by Field Service 2.0. So it's the framework, but combined wisely with our other solutions. So many of you probably know that we have invested over the last year and a half, 2 years into inspections, which we now believe is one of the most powerful market solution on the global market. Then it's routes, a completely different solution that has perfect use cases and usability in the mobile user stories and user scenarios, because it allows you to track the mobile users out in the field, help them better plan their schedule, their routes, and actually get a lot of powerful insights about the times they spent working out in the field versus traveling versus driving, etc., and also optimize their routes. And the third big pillar is innovations, our commitment to our partners and our customers to bring the best from mobile technologies and mobile world in an easy to grasp, understand, and use solutions and pieces of technology that you can use. If I should talk a little bit more about innovations, think about all our approaches to support new wearable devices such as smartwatches, HoloLens, so AR, VR headsets. You can think of new concepts that we inject into our technology, such as artificial intelligence, image recognition, control, application control by voice, and some new functionality around holographic scenes and ability to attach 3D or spatial anchors within your working space, etc. So this all together is how we understand Field Service 2.0. And this is pretty much how the online training is going to be shaped as well. So we decided to divide the online training into 4 modules or 4 blocks. The first one that's the one we're doing or covering today. So we're going to focus on the framework and wearables. Then next week on Tuesday, we're going to cover mobile reports, because that we see is a big part of all the implementations of Resco technology and a very frequent requirement or request from the field service customers. The third block is inspections, again on Tuesday by May 19th, and we'll go very deep into how you can create some of the most advanced data collection functionality and inject it into the existing applications. And the fourth one, which I believe can definitely add a lot of value, is the opportunity to schedule or book Resco experts for private or in-person consultations. You'll get more information about how to schedule or book a consultation with Resco right after this training. It will be part of the email that you'll get, information how to log into a Resco training application that allows you to book that consult. Also, more info on those trainings on our website. If you just go to resco.net and look for online trainings under resources, you will find it right there, and the ability to sign up, which I definitely encourage you to do so. So let's have a look on the framework first. And in order to have a really smooth start, we created a course in Resco Academy, our online learning platform, that is named How to Download and Set Up Resco. So if some of you are brand new to Resco or maybe need to refresh your knowledge and want to learn how to get started the right way, here's a course for you at Resco Academy, where you can go through the whole course and understand what's the best way, what are the best approaches when downloading and setting up Resco. It covers both the actual mobile users as well as the administrators using the Resco tools, including the Woodford tool. So we're going to cover a lot of the Woodford functionality as part of the exercises today. But before we get there, a little orientation. So when I talk to partners, but also customers, there's sometimes a little bit of confusion. Some people think, okay, Resco comes in a form of an application, but we're not sure if we can configure it because we found it on the App Store and it looks pretty rigid. Or also pretty limited. We don't see our custom entities there. We would like to see some other views and forms and fields, etc. So how is this done, right? And currently, Resco doesn't only have one application on the app stores, but multiple applications there. You can find the blue one called Mobile CRM. You can find the Resco Inspections application with the green circle, and then the Routes application as well. And they all come in a different out-of-the-box functionality. The big advantage is now you can use multiple applications on the same device that may be pointing to different backend systems simultaneously. So the applications are there on the App Store. You can download them. You can sync the applications with your existing backend systems. And those mainly serve as an idea of how the application works, how it looks like, and pretty much also serve as the out-of-the-box template or configuration that you can work on top of. How do you work? How do you bring those customizations? That's the second term on this slide. It's about creating application projects. So this is all done in the Woodford tool. And that's pretty much the definition of what the application consists of, what entities, what data objects there are, what views you have, what fields you have, how the forms look like, if you have dashboard looking one way or the other. And then you can also create multiple mobile projects if you have different user roles, different use cases that can benefit from having slightly differently configured mobile application. And then because we want to make the lives of the IT teams a little bit better and easier, we come up with a lot of templates. The two main categories are mobile sales and field service, but you will find there some new templates around inspection and scheduling functionality as well. Think of those as pre-configured functionality that you can use to tweak rather than creating and configuring everything from scratch. And I'll cover this and show you the examples of this in the Woodford tool as well. So now that we hopefully understand the differences between the mobile app, mobile project, and the template, here's a quick poll. I would like to understand what's your typical approach. So let me bring a poll that's gonna ask a question. On average, how many application projects do you use per organization? If you're a partner and work with many customers, really focus on that word average. If you're a customer, let me know how many mobile projects you use internally. Okay, I can see the submissions are getting in. I'll keep it running for 30 more seconds. Okay, so let me close the poll. We have about half of the people who voted, so I'll share the results with you. Let me see how it looks like. Oh, it's very tight, very tight. So the majority of the attendees use one mobile project or one application project, around 37%. Then it's very close between 2 and 3 or more, 23 versus 29%. And we have about 11% of people who don't use any mobile project. So probably this is something very new for them, the whole concept of Resco as a mobile technology. Welcome, and hopefully we'll learn something new today together. Good. Thank you very much. Let me now continue. I'll minimize this one. And let's look then into the Woodford. I'll be switching to the Woodford application to make you a little bit more familiar with the tool. And then we'll also focus on 3 areas there: application projects, priorities, and roles. So let's do that. I'm bringing the Woodford tool to the scene right now. I hope you can still see my screen. If not, I'll ask my colleagues to let me know. And hopefully this works just fine. So what you're looking at right now is the Resco Woodford tool. This is the HTML5 version, so it runs in every browser. And quick orientation before I get to the concept of application projects, priorities, and roles. At the very top, at the ribbon here, you can see you have the options to create new projects, edit the existing ones, etc. If you're using multiple environments, you can easily import, export mobile projects. So if you were a CRM admin and use a test environment and a production, you can create a mobile project in your test environment, test everything, create the configuration, etc., and then export it and import it into your production environment. And then some other functionalities at the top as well. On the left-hand side, we have the administration part, so the administration menu. At the very top, I have the application projects, and you can actually see those in the middle of the screen. As you can see, the environment that I'm connected to, I created quite a few different mobile projects. Some of them are for inspectors, some of them are for scheduling managers, technicians, sales roles as well, etc., etc. On the left-hand side, there's a lot more functionality. Probably a good idea to have a look at it, but I'm not going to cover it as part of the training today. So what I'm going to do today is create a new mobile project. So let's work on a one where we create a new configuration of the mobile application. To do so, all I have to do is click on the new, and I'll pick the template. So I mentioned that we at Resco create quite a few templates to make the life a little bit easier. So it's right here, template. And when I click on this drop-down menu, I can select between sales, field service, inspector, and inspector schedule manager. So because we call this course Field Service 2.0, let's choose the Field Service Technician template. Let's call it 2.0 training. And now we'll assign the priority. I'll put there just a big number like 30, and I'll talk about it in just a second. And one more thing we have to do is assign the mobile project to a specific role. So my role as part of this environment is a system administrator. So I'll check that role on the screen right here. But think of this as a way to create different experiences, so different configurations of the app for different type of users. You can create an application project for salesperson, then you can create a new one for service technician, a different one for inspector, and maybe a different one for CEO. And that's the way how we support it. And then priority, why it's important. Sometimes it might happen that one user has multiple system roles. So let's say that Ivan, I'm a system admin, but I'm also a sales manager and an inspector. And if I have mobile projects or application projects for these different roles, by setting the priority to the highest number, that's how we define which application project would be applied for my role. I hope that makes sense. If not, please let me know in the questions. So this initial setup I think looks good. So we're creating a new mobile project. We picked up an existing template, field service technician. We put there a name, assigned a priority, and we also picked up a security role to which this mobile project or application project will be applied to. So I'll hit the save button now to create this application project, and you can see it's now here at the top of the screen. Right now, it's not available for the actual mobile devices, and you can see that by that little sign next to it. It has a gray sign with an exclamation mark. That means it hasn't been enabled or published. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'll go into the application project and I'll walk you through all the things that we can configure as part of the application project. And then we'll go through a number of examples how we can make that application look a little bit better. Before I get there, let me check if there are any questions. Okay, we have one from Carlos. I think it was meant to be the vote as part of the poll. 3, perfect. And then a question from Martin. Is it still embedded in the Microsoft license? And Martin, if you're still here, I would really appreciate if you could elaborate on the it a little bit more and let me know what you mean by embedded in the Microsoft license, like what part of Resco technology. Good. If you'll have questions, please use the GoToWebinar application to submit them. Good. So let's now continue. I'll open the 2.0 training project. So I'll just double click on it. And now on the left-hand side, you'll see a lot of groups here. So at the very top, I have the components where I can see some home screen, entity hubs, dashboards, etc. Then I have the design where I can really play with the look and feel of the application. I have special section related to map and routes where I can set up and configure the global maps, route planning functionality, or even location tracking. Then some more functionality around calendar, scheduler, integration with Microsoft Exchange or Google, and then additional settings as part of the project as well. And then probably one part that you'd be interested in, we have access to all the entities. So what does that mean? Resco Woodford is a metadata-driven tool, so I can connect the Woodford tool to the backend system. And that means we get the definitions of the database. So not only database, but all the other related configuration as well about the user roles, privileges, security, etc., etc. But entities are a big part of it. So here I have access, or I can see all the entities that are part of my backend server. You can see that some of them are shown in full color, such as work order, user, unit, time of territory, etc., etc. This actually means that these entities are part of my application project, and they're part of the application project because I picked up that template field service. There are a lot of entities here that are kind of grayed out, such as competitor, document location, email, holiday, entity map, etc. And that means that these entities are available in my backend server or on my backend server, but they're not part of the mobile project or application project. So that will be one of the examples that I'll use today to actually show you how how we can add a new entity. But before we get there, let me do one more thing. What I'll do right away is I'll publish this application project called 2.0 training. What's happening right now, I'm making this application project available for my mobile device. And when I sync my Resco application, and I can show you that as well, this is how that default field service mobile project looks like. So it features this blue color at the top, some fancy icons. The dashboard is configured in certain way. It includes work order schedules, work order products, and also a map view. If I go out, you can see that there are some functionality around favorites, calendaring, my route, 2 folders, service and productivity, and then also a map. The folders suggest that there are some additional entities underneath. So I'll go to the service, and if I go to the service, I can see there's a lot of field service related entities here, including work orders, schedules, incidents, etc., etc. And if I go to the productivity folder, I can also see the calendar, times of tasks and activities. For me, let's say this is a little bit too complicated. I think the user might find this a little bit too much. So let's go back to the WordFort tool and redesign the home screen first. So how do we do that? That's pretty easy. At the very top in the section of components, I have the home screen item. So I click on that. And this is pretty much how the home menu looks like. So it was the dashboard, the favorites, calendar, route planning, those 2 folders, service and productivity, and then map, setup, and about. So what I'll do, if I double click on the service, you'll see here are all those entities hidden underneath. If I click on the root on the left hand side, I can get out of there. So what I'll do, I'll delete the service folder, and I'll also delete the productivity folder. So now all those folders have been removed from the home menu. This is how my home menu looks right now, maybe a little bit too simple. So what I'll do, I add from the list of available items on the left hand side, some of the entities back on the screen. So what I'll do, I'll add the work order, and this is very easy to do. I'll just select them and drag and drop them on my home menu. I also reordered this a little bit. So route planner is there. I'll also add the map. Let's say favorites, I'm not going to use too much. Underneath I have calendars, work orders, scheduled and work orders. And maybe I'll also add the account, because that's definitely something I want to see. And maybe the contact as well. One more thing I'm probably missing is some activities, and that should be all right. So if you're now asking, okay, you changed it here, but how we gonna get this to the mobile app? That's pretty simple. All we have to do is hit the save button to save these changes. Now we'll republish the mobile project, meaning this edited version is now pushed to the server. So when I go back to the mobile application and synchronize the app now, what will happen is we will download the new definition. And as you can see, the application in default opens on the dashboard. So I'll fix that as well. But I'll go back, no folders anymore, and design exactly as I wanted. So I have dashboards, my route, calendar, activities, accounts, contacts, and then work order schedules and work orders. Really nice. I'm liking it so far. Let me do 2 more things. We'll disable the default opening of the application within the dashboard, and I'll show you that right away. And then we'll change the look and feel of the application. I'm not sure about you, but I'm not really a big fan of all these different colors and the blue rectangle at the top, so we'll play with that as well. So first things first, let's go back to the WordFord tool. And first, we're going to disable that startup of the application within the dashboard. It's probably not super visible, but I'll zoom in. You'll see that next to the dashboard are those two little arrows. And that's actually a shortcut, or that's how we show that the application will start up in that item of the home menu. So how to disable this? Very easy. I'll select the dashboard form and click on Set Startup. Those two arrows are gone, and now the application will start as usual on the home menu. This can be really handy if your use case dictates that you always start your day in a calendar or maybe in one of the entities. So every time you launch the application for the first time, it can start in one of the entities right there. So I'll save this change. All good. And now let's play a little bit with the themes and the design of the application. So I move on to this second part, second group called design. Right here, I have quite a few things I can work with. Localization, so languages as well. Images, so the ability to provide my own custom images throughout the application. And theme. So let me first focus on the theme. I'll open it up. And this is pretty much my current theme, with the fact that I'm using some more colorful icons. And again, to make the life a little bit easier, we have some preset themes. So I'll choose, instead of the default, I'll choose the Scandinavian. And it should bring those light colors. I think it's a little bit better, easier on the eye, more elegant. But if you're a big fan of trying to pimp the application and make it look really good, this theme section allows you to change a color of every single element in the mobile application. If you ask how to do it, well, you just click on any of the elements on the screen. It will bring the color palette, and you can choose any color right from here, or even make it transparent and then confirm. So it can include the top of the application, the actual color of the fonts throughout the application, the difference between when a record or item is selected in the application, etc., etc. So you can go as far as your imagination allows when it comes to the themes. So this is my preferred theme, the Scandinavian one. And let's do one more thing. I would really love to see a nice logo at the top of the screen. So I'll save this change. Perfect. And go to the images now. So images, you can be as specific when it comes to different devices as you wish. So you can even use different icons across different platforms: Android, Windows Phone, Windows RT, Windows Mobile, etc. And then you can see all those icons grouped in different directories. Because I want to change or add the logo on my home screen, I'll choose the directory right here that says home. Right here. So let me do it. So I can see all the icons that are part of the home menu. And when I scroll down a little bit, I should find an item called image. It's right here, almost in the middle of my screen. And to add a logo, it's actually pretty simple. I'll just click on this little picture here, and I can provide my custom logo. The only requirement is that it needs to be a PNG file. Ideally, if you just download it from the web, make sure you resave it to make sure it's a really plain PNG file with nothing in it. And it has to be named image with a capital I, just like you can hopefully see here. So I'll add this image.png file right here. Okay, it's been added, so I save it, and it appears here. And that means I can save this change. So let's have a look what my newly configured application looks like now. So I hit publish. And to quickly recap it, what we did, we changed the startup screen of the application, we changed the theme, and it should include a new uh, logo at the top of the screen. So I'll just synchronize the application. Here we go. You can hopefully see that the difference. At the very top is a logo of a company also called Resco. That's the reason why when Resco opened the office in the United States, we couldn't call it just Resco as we're called in our headquarters in Europe. We had to call it Resco.net because there's this other company also called Resco, and it stands for Rural Electric Supply Cooperative, as I learned recently. So just for fun, I decided to use their Resco logo because it also looks a little bit retro. And then the rest of the application features this new design, so it's a little bit lighter. Okay, so far so good. Any questions? Any ideas? Any? Okay, we're getting some. That's great. Appreciate that. So let's look at some of the questions now. Can Woodford use CRM forms? Question for Bogdan. Hello to Canada. So I'll get into that one, Bogdan. So if it's fair, I'll save the answer for just about 5 minutes, and then I'll explain what we can use, views versus forms, or recycle them. Some additional information from Martin that we already covered the answer to his question, so hopefully all good. And Ron Spencer, oh, Canada rules today. Hi, Ron. I was looking for that feature for hours. Okay, so Ron has already learned something new today. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you. Thank you all so far. So if there are no questions, let's continue with working with Woodford and do something a little bit more elaborate than just working with the look and feel of the application. Again, if you have questions, let me know through the GoToWebinar application. So let's go back to the Woodford tool. And what we'll do now, we'll add a new entity into our mobile application. So I'll scroll down, I'll skip all these other options that we could spend probably another afternoon playing with and setting up. But I'll go to the entities now. So for the purposes of my demo, I'll pick up just a random system entity called competitor. Resco supports the custom entities just like the system entities. The process is very same. So I'll click on the competitor, and now I have this new view here that relates to the actual competitor entity. First things first, I need to enable it. What that means, I just added the competitor entity to the mobile project, and when I hit the save button, you can see it shows in full black color now. It's not that grayed out version. That means it's now part of my mobile project. All good. There's a lot of things that Woodford tool allows you to set up individually per every entity. It can be from things like adding extra layer of permissions. And by extra layer, I mean in default, we're grabbing the permissions as defined as part of the security role, of course. But if you want to make it tighter, there's an option to do it at the entity level right here as part of the permissions. You can also set up the mode. So if you're talking, let's say, some very sensitive data that you don't want to store locally on a mobile device and enable them for offline purposes, you can choose the mode to online only, and that means I only gonna see those records when I have good connectivity and I'm connected to my backend system in real time. If I want to store them locally, I can choose online and offline. There's some other functionality here, so you can play with synchronization, standard, always full synchronization, or you can employ the incremental mode with synchronization filter, and then also some options for resolving conflicts. Really, we put a lot of thought into this, and it's based on a lot of feedback from hundreds and hundreds of projects that we were involved in. So we believe we have the answer for any of your scenario when it comes to synchronization conflicts. Okay, let's now create a mobile view and mobile form for this newly added entity. Before we get to the designing part, let me add some of the fields that I'm gonna use in my mobile app. So when creating the views and forms, I definitely want to work with some of the fields that are related to the location of the competitor. So let's say city, country, street, maybe zip code. What else do we have here? I think that looks good. Maybe I add created by as an example as well, and street too, and save this change. And now I can move on to designing the UI. So actually how we gonna display the competitor records. To do so, I'll switch to the show UI view. So I click on this button at the top of the screen, and here I am, completely blank. First, let's start with designing a mobile view. And what I mean by mobile view, if some of you are wondering what I'm talking about, if I go back to the mobile application on my phone and go to the accounts, first I see a list of all the accounts right here. So this is what I refer to the mobile as to the mobile view. So we're gonna design how one row on this screen looks like. As you can see, for accounts, it includes the account name at the top, and then 3 additional information, or 3 little fields that define the street, zip code, and also the city. So for the competitor, what I can do, I can add or create a new view. If we have some of the partners or attendees, customers using Microsoft Dynamics 365 as a backend, good news for you, we can reuse and download the views from your Dynamics organizations and use them right in the mobile app. So it's gonna save you a lot of work. For the purposes of this training, we'll just create one from scratch. So I click on the new view here at the top. I'll choose the type to be public, and again we have some templates here, so I'll choose a template that's gonna consist of 1 primary field and 2 secondary fields, and hit OK. And here's my view designer. So this is pretty much how the view on my mobile phone or tablet is going to look like. So at the main or primary field, I'm gonna have the name of the competitor. And because I chose the template that includes 2 secondary fields as well, I have these 2 now empty cells. So if I select the first one, I can add a new field right there. Right now, the fields on the right-hand side, the options or the palette there is quite limited. So what I can do is click on Select Fields here at the top of the screen. And I want to see actually all of those related to competitor. So I'll just put the check there, click OK. Here we go, the full palette of the fields. The easiest way is to select the field in the designer or on the designer. And let's say right there, I want to see the information who created this competitor. And then I want to know what city they're based in, that competitor. As you can probably see on the left-hand side, there is a really lot of things that you can do here and play with how these cells, these fields are going to be displayed in the mobile app. It can be as long as defining the color, defining the width, height. You can actually do it easier with using your mouse as well. You can place them anywhere on that view designer. Also define some grids, etc. if you wanna have a grid in your application. So really a lot of things that you can do as part of the design of the view. Again, there's plenty more at the top of the screen that you can probably see, from things like adding images on the views, map pins, buttons, creating filters to support multiple views, etc., to even things like creating rules on top of the views. So again, imagination is the only boundary here when it comes to designing the mobile view. But let's say this is fine. So what I'll do, I save my new view, or save and close. So that part is done. And now I have to design the second thing, and that's the mobile form. So what am I referring to? If I go back to my accounts in the mobile app and open a form, so I tap on the, let's say, the first account here, you can see that the form in this case includes number of different sections, such as info. That info section includes number of fields. Same goes for address. There's actually a map component there as well. And then there are some associated views. So I see opportunities related to this account, activities related to this account, assets, work orders, and also notes. And this is pretty much how we can design the form. So let me go back to the Woodford tool. And now, Bogdan, I haven't forgotten about your question if we can import the forms from CRM. This is actually the one thing that is not possible. We requested to actually redesign the forms from scratch. The views, yes, views can be imported. The forms, however, not. Why? Because Resco supports now so many touch points that it would be really hard to take something that was usually originally designed for large screens of laptops or desktop computers and try to fit it on small screens of mobile phones. Now we also work with wearable technologies and AR, VR headsets. So I believe there's a good reason why we have to do it from scratch. Actually, it can be done pretty quickly. So let me show you how it's done. So I'll click on the new form. I'll just call it default. That's fine because I'm just going to have one. And this is my form designer. I'll make it a little bit smaller. In my application, as part of the accounts, I pointed out that we have those different sections here, like info, address, map, and then the associated views, contacts, opportunities. So in my default version, I only have one section called general, but I can add as many as I want by clicking on the add detail. So let me just show it to you. Very easy, as many as I want to have. I can create those in the app. I can rename them if I don't want to call them general, etc. But let's say I just delete these for now. So on the general tab or section, I'll have the name of the competitor. I clicked on this white canvas so that Woodford knows we're gonna actually design that form. So I can now just drag and drop some of the fields that I want to have as part of the general. So I put there the created on and modified on, and I think that's good. And I'll add another detail. I'll call it address. And click on the white canvas. Okay, sorry. Let me just zoom it out. There we go. So address, and I'll put there the city, the country, the street 1 and street 2 fields. And just in case, I'll also add the zip code there. Maybe I want to reorder them a little bit to make better sense. If I want to add some spacers, I can do that as well. So maybe just under zip code, I'll add the spacer, and street 2 I put here and add a spacer there to make it a little easier on the eye. If I wanted to, I would again be able to add maybe some tables, some action buttons, images, even iframes or media tabs, map tabs, etc., etc. So make this form a really, really rich experience. And similar to views, we also have access to rules. So if you want to create some custom logic or logic behind the form, it's definitely possible right here with the views, and also access to commands if you want to trigger specific action based on the content input, etc. So I think this looks good for our purposes. Pretty simple, pretty easy. So I'll save and close this. And then we have to do one more thing before we publish the mobile project. I have to go to the home screen and make sure I'll add that competitor entity on my home menu. And I can say, yeah, this is a new one, so let's put it right at the top of the screen. I save that and publish this mobile project. So quick recap, what we did, we enabled a brand new system entity called competitor. We chose some of the fields for the competitor entity and then played with the design of the mobile view and mobile form and enabled it for our mobile application. So if I go back to the mobile app now, it's still not here because I haven't synced the application, but as soon as I sync the Resco application, it should now download the competitor records and also add that entity on my home menu. Okay, it's right here at the top. Let's go into the competitor entity. This is my mobile view, so it has the name of the competitor at the top and then the city on the right. And if I open the EAL systems, this is my form. So it has the general information, the name created on and modified on fields at the top. And then we have the address section with the street information, the spacer, city zip code, spacer, and country. Pretty simple, pretty easy, done in a few steps, I think. This is the way how you can add new elements, new entities into the mobile app. So I know it was probably a lot for some of you that are maybe not super familiar with Woodford. So let me now check if there are any questions, anything we haven't covered or we would need to look into. So, okay. I'm just wondering how we can make this bigger. Okay, found a way. So, question. On the form, can we load automatically images from nodes or other related entities? Yes, very good question. So you can make nodes or the annotation entity part of any form very easily. You just add an associated view and add those images from there, and they can be part of any form, any entity very easily. Let's have a look here. On the forms, can a field label be changed? Good question. I'm actually not sure, but let's have a quick look. So I'll go back to my competitor designers, open up the form, and when I click on the field, I have the option to rename it, but it only relates to the actual section. So the answer is no, seems like we can't rename the actual field label. We can only rename the sections on the form. Another question, can we hide with rules? So absolutely, if you wanna, or I assume you mean the fields. So absolutely you can hide or unhide the fields with rules. This is one of the great examples of how rules can be used. So a very simple one would be on the address tab. If I choose country to be, let's say Canada, that's a popular one among our attendees here. If I choose country to be Canada, only then we can show province, as it usually doesn't apply for the United States or some other countries around the world. And rules are a perfect tool to achieve that. Another question, how to add Google address. Uh, Not really sure what we mean by that. Maybe if you can elaborate on that a little bit, or we can take it offline and get back to it. Questions around autocomplete. Uh, I can show you some examples of voice dictation if that helps. Autocomplete on the forms themselves, not really that much. When combined with the inspections, it works a little bit better there. Any questions? Okay, more questions coming. Awesome. Oh, Daniel, awesome. Daniel is helping with the previous question, and Nila as well, and Tom Morgat as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Glad to have you here. The question about renaming the label of the field. So it's possible through the localization in Wordford. So if I go all the way to the right here, there's the change localization. So you have the option to change the label field using this little workaround. Thank you, guys. Another question from Patrick. Can you access related SharePoint documents from the entities? Absolutely. So Resco has full integration with SharePoint. We can actually even bring them locally on a mobile device. And those can be enabled for the entity as well. Question from Bogdan. Can the sections be made visible and invisible as business process? Good question, Bogdan. I'll check with my colleagues if this is possible using the rules, or if the rules can only handle specific fields, and I get you the answer, unless Daniel, Nilo, or Tom know. And one quick note from Tom. Tom with a company called Aventa. For those of you who don't know them, go check out their website. They do really cool stuff about FMCG and created a lot of their own IP on top of Microsoft and Resco. So Aventa has a service to integrate Google Maps, addresses of restaurants, hotels, bars, and supermarkets, etc. And it's free by Google to a certain limit. So thanks a lot, Tom, for sharing that. We have another question from Carlos referring to the same as Bogdan, if we can use the rules to hide and show the tabs. So I'll get back to you on that. And Daniel, and also Daniel thinks actually that we can only hide the fields, and Nila thinks we can hide fields and tabs as well through rules. So we have a little dispute here. We can definitely let you know what is the right answer. And Carlos thinking that we can hide the tabs as well. Awesome. So 2 for tabs, 1 for the fields. Awesome. Very good. Great. Thanks a lot for your questions. Let's now continue. As I've also prepared some other stuff here, and that would be around the wearable technology. So I know that there's a lot of things in the Wordford tool that we haven't touched today. And as I said, we could probably spend another few afternoons to try to cover all the functionality with the Wordford tool. My goal today was really to show you that there's a lot of options when it comes to making the application look good, stand out, feature your own logos, colors, color schemes, even icons, if you wish to spend a few moments to do so. It's not a very laborious job, as you could hopefully see as part of the demo. And then the other goal was to show you what are some of the main or major building blocks behind the Wordford tool. So the designers that allow you to add new entities into the application, and then the designer that allows you to create a custom view and a custom form. Everything around that, you can add multiple layers on top of that with extra functionality, custom functionality, logic, visuals, etc. But I think as an intro, this is hopefully sufficient and gave you some ideas how this is used. So back to the slides. If you're interested to learning more about the Woodford basics, I would encourage you to go to the Resco Academy and spend a few moments there. We have a course called Woodford Basics that can walk you through a lot of those things that I have been showing today, and that way you can learn it really easy way at your own pace. So now the next topic, the wearables, and I see that we're right on time when it comes to the schedule of this training. So let's go through this now. So wearables. What is actual landscape of the wearable technologies? There's a lot of different approaches. There's a lot of companies that only focus on wearables. Some of them only focus on one specific device and create amazing experiences through those. But to perhaps understand what are the options or how it looks like, a very quick understanding of the landscape of wearable technologies. So we'll start right in the right upper corner. So there's a big area around audio and video. So this includes all the headsets, glasses, or even contact lenses. Then we have a brand new or other category called medical and safety. Part of that are audiovisual aids, medical sensors, etc. Another example is clothing. So safety clothing, sartorial robotics, and wearable technology around that. And then some that we can probably use, except for audio and video, in the enterprise world a little bit easier, are the technologies that you can wear on your hands. So sensors in gloves and rings that can measure a lot of the movements. Then on your feet, shoes and insoles that can measure how many steps you make very precisely, or even how you place your foot on the ground, on the floor. And then probably something that is the most popular right now, quantified self. Think of all the fitness bands and biosensors that you can attach on your body. If we have some runners or bikers, you probably have some devices like Apple Watch, Garmin's, Polar, Suunto that have the ability to connect to chest straps, and that way you can measure a lot of data and get some important metrics. So that's just to lay the ground. And we at Resco think it's really an uncharted territory when it comes how can we make these perfect for our companies, for our customers. So to make a little bit of an order, we decided to really change our focus, and we picked three main areas that Resco is supporting with the technology. So the first one is the headsets area. We decided to extend Resco technology for AR, VR devices, smart glasses, so pretty much the technology that you can wear on your head. The second one is the wrist-worn technology, so mostly the smartwatches, Apple smartwatch, Android smartwatch. And the third category is the wearable computers, so pretty much the devices that you can attach to your body or maybe your clothes. A great example there, we're partnering with HP and working on a project that includes their brand new wearable computer called HP Pilot that's gonna feature Resco technology right on it. So for the purposes of this training, I picked up the smartwatch to focus a little bit more on for the following reasons. It has a small display, but it has a display that we can work with. That means it can show you or provide you with important information in an unobtrusive way. It has limited data entry that definitely has to be taken into consideration. That small display only allows for a very limited keyboard. Good news is some of the smartwatches enable the voice control, especially Android, and hopefully we'll see that from Apple soon. But no news there. So the ability to use Siri to navigate through third-party applications. Another important thing is smartwatches usually feature pretty good battery life. If you use Apple Watch, that can get you through the whole day without problems. If you use some of the athletes' smartwatches, such as Garmin Polar, they can get you through days, sometimes weeks. They have very small footprint. That means if you wear them on your wrist, it's very easy. They're not obtrusive and can keep both of your hands free when you do your job. So that's the first suspect that we are looking at from Resco. When it comes to successful employment of smartwatches in our existing workflows, we think these are the three important things to look at. First, it's the context. Second, it's the use case. And third, it's the right tools that we choose to support these devices. So, for the simplicity, we at Resco decided that we will combine the context and use case together, and we'll rather talk about a continuous experience. Because using a smartwatch as your one and only device is probably not the right choice or not the right approach. On the other hand, using the tablet only is probably also not the best approach, even though it can get you through most of your jobs, daily jobs and tasks. So what do I mean by continuous experience? Continuous experience, the way we see it, is a complete workflow that includes the user. So we first have to understand who the user is, what they do, what processes they cover, what are the devices that they should wear or use, and what kind of data they're going to work with. Is it all going to be about data collection, or are they going to need to rely on some data in form of instructions? Or maybe they're going to be in areas where they could use some source of information and data, but those situations are perhaps too extreme or require their full attention and both hands to do that job. So if we answer these questions and know who our user is, what type of devices they could utilize, and what kind of data they work with, we can look at phase 2, and that is to actually understand their workflow. So how does their actual existing workflow looks like, and look at that workflow as an opportunity to improve their experience, their continuous experience. So what I put together is just a very simplistic example of a day of an augmented worker. So if we think about a typical day of a field service technician, they usually start their work at home or perhaps in the office, where they go through the calendar. Maybe they check their route. They want to see what areas they're going to cover today, where they have to be at what time, etc. And if something unexpected happens, they want to know from the morning that, okay, I'll have some gap here, or maybe I'll be able to accommodate some of the emergency ones on the go. The second one is the navigation. They have to hit the road, get in their van, truck, or car, and they can use the phone's navigation, even better if their car is equipped with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, so that they can connect their phone with a built-in system in their car. When they actually arrive at the site, one of the first things, they want to make sure they're working in safe conditions. So they have to check for the hazards. And this is, I believe, a great opportunity to utilize the smartwatch or the watch to do so, because oftentimes they have to move some objects in the room or area they work with. So having that information on the wrist rather than in the hand is handy. Then they actually collect a lot of data. They have to upload what they've done, upload or update their work order, add some spare parts that they used when, for example, repairing something, etc. So a device with a bigger screen probably makes a lot of sense. If they need to collect data or go through a more elaborate inspection, perhaps a phone, tablet, or even a watch could be a good fit. If, as part of their job, they have to hand in a mobile report with a signature of the customer, etc., that's definitely not something we want to do on a wearable device. So, again, a phone or a tablet might be a best fit. And let's say I'm involved in a very complex repair. So maybe I can benefit from a guided approach, a step-by-step approach that allows me to repair a complex machinery using my smart glasses, or maybe Google Glass or Microsoft HoloLens 2, etc. So this is my very simplified workflow, or a typical day of a worker. And as you can see, we were able to identify a number of times where we can use wearable technology. So third part, the tools. What are the right tools to address these? Of course, there are the natural first options, and that's the native development. However, what I see, it's creating a lot of pressure on the IT teams. They already have to master the traditional mobile development, so Android, iOS devices. They have to become masters of the CRM systems. They have to become masters of now the wearable technologies. So we're talking headsets, smartwatches, new devices, etc. So it's pretty challenging. Or you have the other option to actually use a tool that blends all these together, and Gartner calls them the multi-experience development platforms. That's how we actually define Resco as well, because Resco allows you to actually point at different touch points with the same technology. The picture here, don't think about it as a very precise architecture diagram. It's really a kind of a architecture infographic that showcases that the same technology and the same tool set, represented mostly by the Resco Woodford tool, and then equipped with a lot of designers, builders, modules around routes, inspections, reports, security, auditing, etc., allows you to create these unique experiences for not only the traditional mobile devices running iOS, Android, or Windows operating systems, but the same technology you can point at smartwatches, because we currently support Google Wear OS and Apple Watch OS. We also support the smart glasses, including Oculus Rift, HoloLens, Epson glasses, Google glasses, etc. And Resco can also be used to create progressive web applications. So you're getting, let's say, a little bit more limited tool set, but on the other, when it comes to the richness of functionality and features, but on the other hand, you're getting this really, really robust landscape of many different touch points that are secured and supported by Resco. So now let's go through an example of how an ultimate Resco Field Service 2.0 demo could look like. To do so, I'll just change my application project in the Woodford tool to use a demo that I prepared for today. So what we'll do in the Woodford tool, I'll deactivate our 2.0 training application project, but what I'll do, I activate my Field Service 2.0 technician project. So this way I'll be able to get my demo, the ultimate demo that I prepared for today, and that will be the wrap of the first training today. Okay, sorry about all that movement. So here we are, fully synced and ready to hit the road. So I'll pretty much try to mimic that workflow of the augmented worker as I described it in just a few slides back. So at as a first step, when I'm still at home or maybe in the office about to hit the road, I'll quickly go to the calendar and I see that for today I have two scheduled work orders that I have to take care of. The first one is a repair, the second one is an order. I can go back and move to the My Route functionality in the application. So this will show you that very deep support of maps through the Resco technology. I zoom to my current position and the area that I operate in. Those little red pins, they actually represent the CRM records or the records from my backend system. And two of them are shown in gray color, and the number 1 and 2, those are actually linked to my calendar. So if I tap on the first one, you can see it's the CAS 00061 order, and the second one is the 0037 repair. If I go back to the calendar, that's the repair and the order service work order schedule. So these two components are fully linked together. The blue line actually shows how I get to number 1 and number 2 stops from my current location. If I want to see the details, I can tap at the bottom of the screen and roll this out, and I have a complete idea of my tour plan. You can see the start location and end location at the top and bottom of the screen respectively. What I can do, maybe I'll start my day from the work address, so I can change that to work because I first have to go and pick up the truck. So you'll see that the blue line has changed a little bit because my work location is right here, just a little bit north of the point number 1. And then when I'm done, I'll just go back to my home. So this is how my route looks like. I'll start at my work address, go to stop number 1, number 2, and then I'm done with the day and I can just drive back home. So I mentioned that with Resco, you can use this solution for the navigation purposes, and that's perfectly true. What I can do is tap on the little map button in the right upper corner and open this tour plan in the map application. Right now, this is based on my current location, of course, and when I zoom out, it will show you those 2 points A and B as shown in the Resco tour plan. So let's say I hit the road, I arrived at the first location. I can open up the first appointment or work order schedule right from the calendar. And this is a little bit more complicated form, as you can see, but we decided to keep all the tabs collapsed so they don't clog the screen with too much information. But I can tap on work order, for example, and roll out additional fields here. What I'll do as my first step, I'll check for the hazards. And to do so, instead of using the phone, I'll actually use my smartwatch. So what I'll do now, I'll open an inspection from the mobile app, and one of my checklists or questionnaires includes the HasScan inspection. So I'll choose that, and to actually show you that this works on the watch, I'll switch to my iPad. That will show you the Apple smartwatch, and what I'll do on the smartwatch, I'll launch the mobile CRM application there and go through the HasScan questionnaire on the watch. So let's do so together. I need to unlock the watch first. So you just saw my PIN code, but I'm sure it's saved with you. I look up the mobile CRM application here. I open it up. Now it tells me I need to open the questionnaire on my phone, which I just did. And here's my hazards questionnaires. Okay, Siri thinks I'm talking. So first question, do I encounter any hazards? Let's say yes. Was there a risk of slip or fall or trip? Let's say yes. Any strain? No. Did I become caught in moving objects? Luckily no. Any contact with harmful energy sources? No. And then any harmful substances? Maybe yes. Did I complete my HasScan? Yes, absolutely. All done. Last point, I can continue on my handheld to actually do my job. On the Android watch, we also support voice there, but it's a little bit easier for me to show it all with the Apple products. So let me return back to the iPhone. And what you'll see in the iPhone in probably just a second is completely filled out questionnaire, but everything done on the watch instead of my phone. So this phone could easily rest in my pocket while I was actually going through the HES scan. I save this and return back. And now just very quickly, I'll do one more inspection, and that's the regular inspection. So I open the regular inspection template. And again, this is a combination of the Resco traditional framework with the Resco inspection functionality. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to inspect an elevator. And first of all, I have to identify that elevator. To do so, we use the serial number of the elevator, but instead of typing it in, I can scan the barcode next to the elevator to identify it. You will see that the fields such as manufacturer, model, and last service will get populated as well. So let's do so. I'll tap on the barcode button and I'll scan this barcode that I have right here on my desk. I'll just change the serial number so it fits a certain mask that is required by our configuration. And as you can see, all the information about the manufacturer and model and last service has been populated automatically. So that's good. I can now focus on the actual inspection. So I'll first go through the cabin interior. I check the lights, those are fine. Control panel works well. Maybe LCD display is damaged. Cabin walls are fine, and speaker and microphone are not working. I go through the cabin exterior. I check the brakes. The left brake looks good, but maybe the right brake looks damaged, or at least I think so. So I'm required to change a spare part. But because this is an elevator that I'm not really very familiar with, we can use the AI functionality to help me to identify that spare part. To do so, I have the option to launch the camera, take a picture of that spare part, which I'll do right now. You can take your guess if this is a wheel or something else. So I'll take a picture of it, hit use photo, and this picture has been now submitted to AI Azure learning model or model, and it was identified as a brake pad. So super easy. If I tap on that field, I see, yes, actually I have brake pad as part of my spare parts in my van, and I'll be able to use it. The value of it is $200. So I can continue with inspecting the exterior. I'll check the wire ropes and securing brackets. If there's any particular issue, I can actually take a picture. Let's say I found this elevator shaft that looks not in the best condition. So I hit use photo, and I can actually add visual marks on top of the picture. So what I'm doing right now, using my finger and placing these visual tags or tagged images, creating a tagged image where I can identify specific problems. So I place this red tag on the control section of the elevator, and when I tap on it, I can say, yeah, this is actually regarding the control panel, and this is a pretty high priority issue. And I tap on the little plus button at the bottom of the screen again, and maybe put one more tag here and say, you know what, this is actually regarding the wire ropes, and it's a low priority. So I can identify the issues by taking pictures and adding more contextual information around that. So that picture should be displayed here in just a second. Here we go with those tags. And now I'll just have to check the engine room. Everything looks good there. The floors, so I'll just go through this pretty quickly because I know I'm almost out of time. and add some final notes. And as part of the inspection, I also add the customer signature, which I can do at the very bottom of the screen, capture that signature, and save that. Now I can look through the inspection one more time, and when I'm happy with it, I can complete it with the report. After that, I won't be able to make any changes, but I'm presented with this nice report that I can build locally on a mobile device, which is a big advantage. That means you don't need any internet connectivity to do so. And this is how it actually looks like. It includes the pictures that I took, the text that I added on top of the picture, and even the signature as dropped at the bottom of the inspection. What's even more, I can copy it, print it, or email it. So before I leave the site, I can hand the report to my customer so that they're aware of what's going on. I save and close this change, and just like that, I'm done with my first work order schedule, and I can hit the road again and move to the second one. So that's how we actually imagine the field service 2.0 in real life. It's a combination of the Resco framework equipped with a lot of rich functionality around routes and navigation in form of the Resco route project or product. The inspection functionality that can make my life much easier when I'm going through elaborated tasks, processes, and workflows, and allows me to collect data on the go very quickly. And then, of course, some of the innovations. So it works perfectly fine on a smartwatch, just like it can work on a AR VR headset. And I can even enrich it with some tech images, holographic scenes, and AI image recognition, all from the one and the same technology called Resco. So with that, I know I ran a little bit over time. My apologies for that. Appreciate if you stayed until now. I would like to open it up to questions. If you'll have to go before I get to all of them, I'll try to sum all of them up and send them by email to all the attendees. Please make sure that you download the slide deck from the handout section of the GoToWebinar, and also extra resources that I put there where you can find additional information, guides, Wikipedia, Resco Academy access, etc. that can be very useful when you need to work with Resco technology in the future. If you'll have anything else, here's my email address. Please feel free to email me at any time, ivan@resco.net. I'll be more than happy to get back. So thanks again. I'm going to try to go through the questions, but if you'll have to go, I completely understand, and thank you very much for joining me today. And let's have a look. Okay, there's quite a few questions. First one from Chris. Do we need to have the routes module to see the route in the map as you have demonstrated in Dynamics 365 Inspections User? So what I demonstrated, that doesn't require the extra routes module, because that's really based on just the appointments, as an example, that you can place on the map, and then the route navigation will take you there. If you want to get more insights and more valuable information with the option to see the users in real time, get the information about how much time they're spending on the road versus working, etc., that actually requires the extra module. Another question, is that schedule tab at the top of the screen a business process flow with buttons? I'm glad, Chris, that you saw this. For the sake of time, I skipped it, but this is something brand new that we're working on and hoping to have it ready for our next release. So the idea is to have a perfectly configurable process flow type of component that you can place anywhere in the application. And as you move through those stages, it can show custom content or even tabs and fields related to every stage. So for the user, we're hearing this from a customer as a requirement or request again, that they would like to make the lives of their users easier, so that it's to have these visual clues right on the screen, on the top of the screen of the mobile application. So yes, that's something we're working on and should be part of our next release. Some appreciation of the demo. Thank you. Question if there will be a recording. Yes, there will be a recording, but because it's a longer one, it might take us a little bit longer to put it all together. But we will release it, of course, and make it available. Some more appreciation. So thank you all very much. Question from Tom: is the Resco app on smartwatch only available for Resco inspections, or can you also configure for classic Resco? Tom, I'll check with my colleagues. We primarily built it into the demo as an inspection example because of the limitations, right? It's pretty hard to try to fit like a pretty complex form on the screen of a watch, but we believe that inspections, which is more kind of a flow step-by-step process, can be displayed there. But I'll check with you what else can we achieve on the smartwatch and let you know. Some laughs. Okay, what license is needed for the customer to be known that the crew is close? Yes, okay, I think I got it. So yes, that functionality to actually have the option to notify the customer, for example, that the field service technician is approaching the location, that would require the Resco routes module, so that we can grab the information where the users are in real time and create some additional actions based on that. So the answer is possible and done through the Resco routes module. Okay, there are some thank you messages. So I think that's it. Again, if you'll have more questions later, if there'll be anything that crosses your mind, let me know through the email. Also, next week, same day, Tuesday, there's the mobile routes training that will walk you through the mobile report training. That will walk you through how to design the reports, and then the inspections the week after that. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening or rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you sometimes in the near future. Thank you very much.